Thank you, Mr. President, for your speech. It would be our pleasure if you could stay till the end of the ceremony. With that said, I would like to invite Sonja Gajić, Director of the Belgrade Center for Security Policy, Mr. Mihailo Crnobrnja, President of the European Movement in Serbia, and Mrs. Sonja Licht, President of the Belgrade Fund for Political Excellence, to address the forum.
Thank you, President Vučić, to addressing the Belgrade Security Forum, but the closing conclusions come from the organizers, the Belgrade Fund for Political Excellence, European Movement in Serbia, and Belgrade Center for Security Policy. So these are the conclusions we made over the 3 days. The 7th Belgrade Security Forum identified as the main crisis in Europe the erosion of democracy and rule of law. Deepening and rapidly increasing inequalities left many people behind, feeling that they do not share same space and community with political, economic, and intellectual elites in their countries. This is a fruitful ground for populist politicians and movements who govern by the proliferation of fear of the others. The others in the EU these days are migrants, while in the Western Balkans, the others are usually neighboring nations and opposition. Populists govern not only by exclusionary rhetoric, but also in action. They capture state resources with 2 purposes. First, to deliver some public goods to their constituencies, and second, more importantly, to lock their power by removing checks and balances and media scrutiny. This exclusion of different perspectives and minorities by legal means is rapidly growing within the EU, and it prevents EU from exercising influence in the neighborhood, and it's starting to lose credibility. The division within states perpetuates divisions among states in the Europe. Belgrade Security Forum calls for the EU member states to take leadership and rebuild the rule of law as a cornerstone of European identity. The participants of Belgrade Security Forum also recognize our own and other pro-democracy actors' responsibility, both within the EU and the Western Balkans, to engage more at the grassroots level with those in favor of democracy and peace, and to mobilize an untapped potential of youth and women. The Western Balkans today is a periphery of the EU, and the region that seems to get attraction of EU decision makers only when there is a perception of external influence or internal instability. Berlin process intensified the process of accession by providing perspective of economic development through regional interconnectedness, but did not yet manage to make increase accountability of the Western Balkan politicians for the implementation of the agreements made. In next phase of the process, we need more monitoring of commitments and tangible benefits for citizens to be delivered. The key for the progress in the Western Balkans does not lie in the hands of EU elites, but of the region. Instead of the initiatives for action should be taken by Western Balkan people and nations. Instead of waiting for the EU to mediate bilateral disputes, we need responsible leadership of politicians, but also civil society in each of the nations to seek dialogue and reconciliation in a consistent manner and not compete in shifting the blame. The Western Balkans should also seek its place in discussions on the future of Europe without voting right, so to be able to prepare for the changed EU that we will join. And last but not the least, all of these solutions require that we discuss uncertainties without fear in a free discussion and taking into account the views of those with whom we disagree. The 7th Belgrade Security Forum, under the title of Building a Common Future in the Age of Uncertainty, managed to gather more than 120 speakers and 700 participants from more than 35 countries, as well as 250 journalists from Serbian, regional, and international media. And I'll give a floor now to Mr. Crnobrnja as someone who negotiated our accession in a former state within the EU to give a more optimistic or pessimistic view of the discussions in these 3 days.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, Excellencies, let me introduce myself. I am the former ambassador of former Yugoslavia to the former European community. The community became a union. Yugoslavia unfortunately disintegrated, and I went back to professorship. But now I'm the president of the European movement in Serbia, and we are very, very proud to be one of the co-organizers of this event. It has meant a great deal for us, and it will give us new power and new energy to do what our mission is. And our mission actually is rather simple. It's to bring Europe into Serbia so that Serbia can go to Europe. Meaning, we set the standards, we try to help both the government and the population in realizing what needs to be done in the process of accession to the European Union. So one of the things that we really need to do, when I'm talking about we, I mean the European movement, we need to move out of the krug dvojke, which is of tram number 2, yes, and stop European movement being so Belgrade-centric. Needs to go south, particularly south. In the north, in Vojvodina, it's much, how shall I say, much more comfortable and much more present, but we are moving in the direction of the south. And my last remark will be on the dates which have been set. The president has, in the capacity of prime minister, I believe, mentioned 2021 as the time when we will be ready to enter the European Union. Now, from the other side, we have a kind of a target date of 2025. What we would like to do is be ready by 2021, and we will try our hardest to help in making that happen. And then it will be a question of circumstances and the way in which Europe manages to reset itself in the next coming years, to reconsolidate and take on new challenges or new members. Thank you very much for participating in all of this and for helping in make this forum a really good, excellent occasion. Thank you.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and wonderful audience participants of the 7th Belgrade Security Forum. I underline wonderful because to sit here the whole day, listening, participating is quite a job. We did it once again. We came to the end of the forum. Many people already told us that this was even better than last year. Raising expectations mean in the same time a compliment, but also a difficult path to follow. Of course, the forums would not be possible, first and foremost, without the people who participate in them. But the bread and butter of the forum is being secured by our partners, especially our strategic partners. Thus, I have to say a great thank you to Open Society Foundations, Wilfred Martens Center, Robert Bosch Stiftung, Balkan Trust for Democracy of German Marshall Fund, and European Fund for the Balkans as our strategic partners, and many, many others who very seriously supported this endeavor and who are standing with us now for years. We very much hope that there will be more in the future, because otherwise it will be difficult to meet your expectations. As for the thanks yous that we received from day one, started with Minister Dačić, ended with the President, and many, many other people. I really have to say that, first of all, you were right, Mr. President, one person is missing. Maya, which is not with us because she has a small baby, and for the time being she spent her time with David. We congratulate her also from this stand for that wonderful achievement. Professor Crnobrnja was here with us instead of her. Thank you for being here on behalf of the European movement. But I want to say that the wonderful words, the thank yous, in fact, do not go to us in the first place. They go to that wonderful team, part of the team, yeah, they are there, a wonderful team who is working day and night. Many of them over 12 months, with a huge commitment and even bigger passion. You cannot do this work if you are doing it as 3 non-governmental organizations without huge work and huge passion. The other group I want to thank very much are our volunteers. From year to year, we have a group of wonderful young girls and boys without whose work you wouldn't feel this comfortable, and the whole thing would not be that smooth. Thank you very much once again for your participation. Once again, I want to thank our guests who traveled, some of them from far away. Wish you very pleasant, safe trip home, and see you next year at the 8th Belgrade Security Forum.